Welcome to your Veterans Resource Podcast, Return to Roots. This podcast is for service members and their family members regarding retention, transition, and reintegration from active duty to veterans in the community. Hi, I'm your host, Chris Elder, an active duty senior chief in the United States Navy, and my partner in crime / host is Yogi Hernandez, who's an active duty chief in the Navy. Together, we are documenting our experiences as we prepare to transition and reintegrate into the community. Every podcast will have actionable content that will benefit American service members and their families, as well as those who have already transitioned and reintegrated. The first 3 episodes of Return to Roots is going to be with Maurice D. Wilson. Maurice served as a mast chief in the United States Navy. He retired and then transitioned and reintegrated as the president and national executive director of the National Veterans Transition Services, also known as Reboot. He's a mentor of Return to Roots, and we are very privileged to have him here with us today. Thank you, Maurice, for coming on to Return to Roots and making this thing possible. Also, it's now going to be 4 episodes with Maurice instead of the original 3 that we planned, because there's so much information being put out by Maurice that's just too important to have in just 3 episodes. So stay tuned, stay patient, and stay informed. I will see you guys out there. Take care.
Managing Your Transition Timeline 365. And this recent GAO congressional report, the timing of it just is uncanny. It just came out the 13th of December, so it just came out last week. And what it is a sort of a 2-year study of TAP, what's going on in terms of the performance, how many people have gone through it. But what I like about the report and what it does, it breaks down when a person starts planning for their transition, in some cases, 2 years out. And so it really looks at who went through the TAP program. And so in the graphic, it talks about some people, what percent of individuals start TAP, let's say, 2 years out. For example, 2% of the folks that have gone through TAP start 2 years out or more, 5%, 18 to 24 months, and then about 18% somewhere around about 12 to 18 months out. And which kind of adds up to somewhere around about 25% of transitioning service members that are getting out. However, when you get into that 1 year time frame and you start breaking it down as far as by who's going to TAP, what it's saying is that the numbers are not looking good. So 12, 9 months to 12, about 15% of the total number of people. When you get down to, and this is what I call the danger zone. So now when you get into 6 to 9 months of going to TAP, you're not really giving yourself enough time to prepare. So let's go back and level set. There's a direct correlation to readiness, prepared in terms of starting something early and having plenty of time to identify what you want to do, plan it, get some training, so that when the time comes for the person to actually take off the uniform and pivot to civilian life, leave the military, they're ready. So if you're not ready, then you're in this stressful zone, if you will, that predisposes you to stress, transition failure, the whole 9 yards. And I think I shared with you guys, there's a study that was done by a foundation called the Henry Jackson Foundation, which talks about it's called the Veterans Metrics Initiative, that's related to your wellness and your and your readiness. And wellness and readiness are sort of like really, really connected to each other. So the better ready I am in terms of my transition, the better I feel and the more successful I'm going to be. the less ready I am, the more I'm worried and the less successful I'm going to be. And so the correlation here on this slide is, as we look at who's going to TAP in terms of the total number versus the percentages, you know, in terms of how many months of TAP they get. Well, notice that roughly 70% of that total population, they attend TAP at least a year or less than separating, which somewhere when you look at, let's say 3 to 6 months, you get roughly, what's that, about 46%. I mean, this is like eye-opening. 46% of most of the people that go to TAP 3 to 6 months prior to separation. That's not good. Okay.
Not at all.
That means that they're just not ready. So to me, this is a compelling argument for the Managing Your Transition Timeline app. Okay. Now, let me level set again. Going to TAP is no guarantee that a person is going to be ready for transitioning out. And let's kind of put that on the table. TAP is designed to provide you with information related to veterans benefits, maybe in employment, but it's really an informational session. And the informational session, as good as it is not really going to totally prepare the person. So who's going to prepare the person? Who's responsible for preparing the person? Is TAP responsible for someone's success or failure when they get out? The answer is no.
No.
TAP is not responsible. TAP is there to provide information, but the success for the individual is the individual's own responsibility. However, but according to this data, a lot of people aren't preparing for their transition. So that's, for me, that's the warning sign. That's the danger zone. That's the red flags that are like, whoa, we got people who are getting out that are just not ready to get out. And it's no wonder why a lot of people are having some challenges with their transition, which is the very reason why we developed the Managing Your Transition Timeline app. And so with this thought in mind, our belief is that, okay, first and foremost, when you're transitioning out, you can't rely only on TAP. It's a tool. It's not the end-all solution. And so you have to start planning your transition. The moment you get your separation date is when you should start planning. But let's be honest, according to this, most people don't. Okay, and most people don't attend TAP for a variety of reasons. And so I'm gonna go to the next frame here. So
before we move on, I kind of want to talk a little bit more about this GAO report to the Congressional Committee. Is this the Congressional Committee that's also doing the study on criminal justice system, veterans ending up in the criminal justice system, or is this a totally separate one?
No, this is separate. This is the General Accounting Office. Okay. And so this is like the Office of the Inspector General. Yeah. And so they monitor all government agencies and they report on them. So again, yes, it's almost like an independent study entity, but it has inspector, oversight. And basically they did their study of a government program, and then they reported it to Congress.
So I'm familiar with what GAO is, but I know that we recently had that Congressional Committee come by San Diego and look at the criminal justice system. Mm-hmm. As far as all that. This doesn't correlate with any of that, though, right?
Well, it doesn't. It's sort of it's connected, but it doesn't correlate, and so they're not the same entity. And I would imagine that the folks who came by with the CCJ, Council of Criminal Justice, that they're reading this also. So for them, this is a data set. It's research, and they're like, wow, okay, this just again further enhances what we've been thinking about. That we need to make sure that people do a sort of like long-range planning for their transition. But so it gives them more detail and more background. And I'd be really interested to see their analysis of this in terms of what they're doing. Because remember, with the CCJ, the Council on Criminal Justice, their focus is on actually individuals who have gotten in trouble and became incarcerated and need some help, if you will. But they also, so that's kind of like something that's done. They need to also look at, well, how did that happen? What does the pipeline look like? And what predisposed these individuals to those circumstances? And so I'm not saying that not going to TAP is going to predispose a person to criminal justice, the criminal system, but it's a contributor to other things. So again, just look at this as, really good data to get an idea of what's not happening, where again, you have roughly 70% that are just latecomers when it comes to attending a 3-day transition assistance program. But again, you have to go back and question. So does attending TAP help you and change your life? And where's the data that supports that? And I haven't seen that as of yet.
It's like as if the Navy or the Marines or whatever service branch, what if they were to only give you let's say they are only to give you like a 3-day course to become a sailor? It wouldn't work. They're essentially doing the same thing for us to transition out into becoming military or civilians, military to civilians.
Well, that is a compelling argument. And again, that's the foundational aspect of Reboot, which is we need more than, let me just say, we need more than 3 days, we need more than a week, but we would go a little further and say, but the curriculum for TAP is not the same as Reboot. So Reboot's curriculum is designed to change your experience. It's based on experiential. The TAP program is based on information. And so in terms of learning and how people learn, well, if you're trying to change a behavior, then a 3-day informational session is, again, by its very nature, is not going to be designed to change you. It's just there to give you some information, where Reboot, because it's designed to be experiential based on your experiences, is designed to change your behavior so that you can plan and execute your transition a little bit better. It's two different, I call it apples and oranges. But again, this is a really good, powerful visual that lets you kind of, put the mind's eye on. So what are we dealing with now? A lot of people are not necessarily going to TAP, which, it is the first line of defense for transitioning service members, but it's not the only line of defense. In fact, I think the line of defense, if you look at this, needs to be moved further upstream, where this is mostly downstream. So again, another way to look at this is people are going to TAP. I guess that's a good thing, but look at when they're going. Okay, anywhere from 3 months or less, 15%, 6 months or less, 21%, 6 to 9 months, 8 to, that's pretty interesting stuff there. And so how do we prepare people to be successful in their transition? And so,
and I can, sorry for that interruption, but I can tell you from a personal experience that the dynamics are always, oh, well, you don't need that. You don't need to go through TAPs that early in your career, or you don't need to, go that early. And you're talking about within 2 years or 5 years of getting out, right? Even though it's recommended, they're like, oh, you don't need that. You don't need that. The C lawyers that you talk to, and then you talk to your career counselors, and they don't recommend it until about 6 months or 3 months right before you get out. There's the whole 2 years or a year, it's never talked about it or even pushed for, even though we should, because everybody's like, oh, you don't need it until the last minute, the possible last minute. And it's always a what it's called. It's an operational deterrent because there's always quote unquote more pressing items in your career that should be taking place instead of making the time for the service member to get out. And everybody blames it or uses the excuse of, well, they're going to have more time. They're going to figure it out on themselves. This is not my problem. This is the kind of their problem. They'll figure it out. Or we'll push it out to the next time and next time. I personally had to be, I've always been proactive, but I had to personally be creative on how I attended the class. Because otherwise I would still be at this point and I still would have not attended. So, and I know junior sailors, and even some senior sailors, they don't do that until, that's why the 70% of the 6 to 9 months beforehand, or 3 to 6 months beforehand, which is insane, especially now looking at it from this side of this angle. Because when you're looking at it from the other side, when you're inside and you're just like, oh, well, they'll figure it out when they get out. It's not feasible.
Chris, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I just want to plug it out there because I know I have a lot of friends that are career counselors. The ones that are worth their weight influence people to go early. And I just wanted to make sure I said that to the career counselors that I know that are going to listen to this and be like, wait, no, I've told Chris to go early and often. So I don't think Yogi, you don't mean that all the career counselors. It's just
no, not at all.
You get some of those career counselors that are really good, and you get some that need some help.
And they're also influenced also by the operational motives of the commands at the time going. I mean, you talk about FDNF, which is you're always going to be on the go. Even when you're at home, you're always running 100 miles an hour. It's very difficult for you to let go of someone to go to their classes when it's not unnecessary an emergency now.
Yeah.
And that's the mentality that we have.
Yeah, and I definitely know that because like FDNF, you may not have availability of classes until after you get back.
Exactly.
Unless you send somebody 12 hours north, which commands typically wouldn't do because there's a cost to the sailor. I believe, I'm not sure if it's a no cost or a cost. That's something.
Well, you still have to pay. You would still have to pay for the Shinkansen to go over there, and come back. So I mean, there's still a financial burden.
To kind of come back on topic, this GAO, it's holding. I believe it holds the DoD, the VA, the DOL to the study, and the applicable service branches. I'd be curious to see what service branches are better than others, but that's I didn't see any of that in the data. But it's funny because the TAPS is info based. It's not meant to change your mentality like what Reboot does, which is you need TAPS and then you need Reboot, in my opinion, to have a successful transition. And I'm curious if the GAO is asking the DOL, DoD, VA, and be like, hey, like, what can we do to be better at this? Because they're holding that TAPS up and they're saying, I have the checklist. Their name is on this checklist. They attended the class. That's all. It's like a check in a box for them. Sorry, just kind of went off.
No, it's all good. I think. Go ahead, Yogi.
And this falls back into one of the conversations that we've already had offline, not part of the podcast, but whose responsibility is it to take care of this, right? It's not the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense has to have the checks in the box, which is TAPS class, capstone, and then they succeeded on their portion of it. It's everyone else's responsibility to kind of, one, get the information, which is kind of difficult at times because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, but to also be able to put yourself into the scenario that you go through this, and when you're getting through the short timelines of 6 months and 3 months, or you're at that point that you're now, other things are on a personal choice, other things are more pressing than going through this class that can, in theory, for someone that hasn't gone through them, tells you that, oh, you can wait till the last minute to attend to it, which is a horrible decision on a personal case.
Writing down some of your thoughts, and in your conversation was the answer, and I think Yogi just mentioned the question of, so whose responsibility is it, to ensure that a person has a successful transition? Is it
theirs?
Yeah. Is it DOD? Yes. Is it TAP? Or is it the individual?
Individual.
The individual.
So you can't blame this on the DOD. Now, the other question to ask is, okay, and you hear this from a lot of commands. Well, I can't sit. So if you look at, the number of people who go late, and you start asking, why didn't you go to TAP? Well, what are some of the answers? Didn't have enough time to do it. What's another one? It wasn't convenient for the command. It's not our problem, it's your problem. We can come up with a list of reasons why a person somehow doesn't go. But at the end of the day, you know what they say? Within that question and problem is the answer, because, so let's kind of look at it. So if time is an issue, then how do we take time off the table where time to do something or prepare is no longer an issue? And we kind of looked at all of those things. I don't have enough time. The command won't let me. It's not convenient. I can't get away. I got to stand duty. And then we kind of looked at the process and we said, well, wait a minute. We're approaching this the wrong way. We're trying to make everybody go to TAP, sometimes at the expense of the command, taking resources away from them, versus if you can't take the individual to the problem, then, just kind of reverse it, if you will, take a solution to the person and have it fit within their lifestyle. So that's where we came up with the Managing Your Transition Timeline app. We said, look, this is a simple solution right here. Okay, if managing and tracking and keeping up with their transition is an issue, then why not develop an app that does it all? So all the person has to do is put in their separation date. And you could be 2 years out, you could be 3 years out. And you could put in, well, hey, I'm getting out in 2.5 years. Plug in your separation date. And then the app populates the table database. And then all the things that you're supposed to be doing, the app automates it and does it for you. So now the person doesn't have to worry about, I didn't do this, I didn't have enough time to do that, I wasn't prepared for this, because they have the app that's reminding them, that's keeping up with them, that's helping ensure that they complete all of their checklists. But it goes a little bit further. It also helps them identify or connect to the community that they're going to join. So let's say if I'm getting out, and let's say my name is Chris Elders, and I'm going to the Seattle area, then okay, that's where I'm going to head. Then what I would like to do, knowing in advance that I'm going home, I'd like to be connected to someone back there to help me navigate, to help open doors, build bridges, and get me ready. So what we thought about with the app was, let's look at all the problems and all the challenges that we've heard from hundreds and thousands of transition service members. The reason why I couldn't do this, the reason why I couldn't do that, the reason I had an issue here, et cetera, et cetera. Let's take all of those issues and automate the process and solve it. And so that's where we came up with the idea of developing the Managing Your Transition Timeline app. Now, what we did was just came up with an idea, and then we found a technology company to do it for free. I mean, it's like problems. Didn't cost anybody anything, didn't cost the government anything. Now, let's bring it forward and let's talk about today's sailor. Let's kind of stick mostly with today's sailor. And it doesn't matter if you're an E4 to an E9 or whatever the case may be, everybody can use it. And quite simply, all they have to do is just log on and create their own personal account. Okay, I'm getting out in such and such a day. I'm planning to go to such and such a location. And if they know what they want to do, they can actually put that in there, but it's not really necessary at this point, because now you got another set of eyes. Actually, they have technology that's looking at everything that says, hey, Chris, you're going to be getting out in 265 days. Okay, and you're at X%. And so now what you have is something or someone reminding you on a regular basis about what's happening. And that's been the missing link for a lot of people. So if we go back to the GAO report and we start looking at, okay, folks are not engaging until that last year or maybe the last few months. Well, how do we flip that and actually get them engaged earlier? Because quite frankly, they need more than a year. They need probably 2 years to really plan out, identify my next career, start getting some training. Maybe I can take a couple of courses online. I can do a whole lot here in that 2 year mark than I can in the last year. The last year, which actually goes by real quickly, could be spent more or less in the final phase of maybe finding the specific employer. You know, the 2 year mark out, you basically identify what it is, you know, where you're going and what it is you want to do. That's before the first year. And then within the second year, and then the first year is really spent just, now I'm just connecting the dots at home. I'm finding my employer, I'm negotiating salaries and things like that. So effectively, by the time 3 to 6, actually 6 to 9 months come, I pretty much have a good idea what employer I'm going to be working with, where I'm going to be living, what I'm going to be doing. And I'm just going through the process here, interviews, things of that nature, and then out the door. So that was really the thought behind it, which is to take that whole process and essentially automate it so that we can operate much more efficiently, but also be reminded of things that need to be done at certain intervals.
And one of the biggest things that I like about this app is the fact that you don't have the excuse anymore of you don't know what you don't know, because it's literally laid out for you and for your spouse on certain checkpoints and certain guidelines of what you need to do to be successful from the 24 months before you get out all the way up to 365 days after you retire or get out of the military. So it's a step-by-step process. You knowing the high achievers that we usually have in the military, they have the ability of go ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And for the ones that are a little bit procrastinating and want to wait till the last minute, they can visualize the reality of timelines when it comes to, okay, these are the things that I actually have to do in this order so that I can be successful and no longer blame anyone else, the command, the Navy, the, command career counselor or anybody else that is, even my chief per se, or my LPO, it's literally in their hands to do and have the resources to be able to be successful, or not very good or procrastinate as much as they want, but it's literally in their hands.
And there's the other feature which enables command career counselors to monitor people within their unit who are getting out, who are in the zone. So the individual alone, I mean, that's a good thing for them to be able to manage their transition. But what we discovered is that even with the tool, some people are not going to do it on their own. And so that's why we decided to create what we call the command career counselors part of it, where now each unit can have people sign up under them and they can track and see where everyone's at who are in the zone and can communicate with them. So I can pull up a dashboard and I can look at HSC3 and I can see who all has signed up. In fact, let you know, I'm sort of like I'm like a show and tell kind of person. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. All right, so I'm going to log in. Let me get over here.
So while you're pulling that up, I kind of want to talk about how this the app is populated. From what I understand, Maurice, you guys pull all the information not just out of the thin air. Where do you guys get the information from?
We got that information from the Department of Defense, and so any person who attends TAP, this is the good part. Any person who attends TAP will get a hard copy timeline sheet. It's called the Managing Your Transition Timeline. It's just a hard copy, which is in the Managing Your Transition booklet. But now here's the deal. But you only get that when you go through TAP. So if you don't go through TAP until like 3 months before you get out, then you're not going to get that Managing Your Transition Timeline document to really help you navigate and manage your transition. So again, this sort of gets people in the zone where they probably won't be in the zone ordinarily. So no, that's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up. So we just took that document and just automated it. We didn't enhance it. We didn't embellish anything. We just looked at it and said, you know, hey, let's give this to a programmer that does like apps, if you will, and tell them create an interface that's easily navigatable, that just kind of deals with phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and there you have the Managing Your Transition Timeline app.
So it's funny how they give you this Managing Your Transmission Timeline booklet.
Transition.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and you know that timeline. It's not like a sheet that they just give you. There's this booklet, and in the booklet itself, I'm not even seeing an actual checklist in here. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, we give you the stuff, but we don't give you the actual checklist, which you could go find the checklist online. And it's on the VA website. But yeah, this app is obviously going to make it a lot easier for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
And
So go ahead.
not just that, but there's no reference to say, hey, if you want some more information, you go here. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not readily accessible.
Well, you know, what do most people typically do with a document once they get it? They put it in a file. So it's not a living entity, and that's a big challenge. Can you guys see my screen?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to go into, so this is something like what we call the super admin dashboard, where we can see all the members that are in the system, you know, who just did. Adrienne, she just recently signed up, if you will. So we can see all the members there. We can do updates, the whole 9 yards. We can actually see who the transition managers are. We can see how many people they have assigned to them, if you will. This is one of our community partners, Veterans Community Connections. And basically, they've taken on a big chunk of people, roughly 102 active duty that they're working with. And one of the new features, and this is another feature that we added, which is bringing in community partners. And so we're able to go in and start identifying across the country American Legion Post and other member entities. And this thing is designed to just basically grow, that participate in this. And so no matter where you go in America, there's always going to be an American Legion or VFW that you can connect with. And so our goal here is to make it easy for transitioning service members to connect to someone in their hometown. And then the latest feature that we added is what we call the group managers. So let's say that HSC3 is one of the groups there. So with HSC3, we can add as many people in this group. And I'm going to use my organization, for example, like with Reboot, we have 3 team members that's on this group, myself, Caleb, and Robert. And so we can all see the same screen. So it doesn't matter how many people I have, how many people Caleb have. I can see who Caleb is serving and working with, and she can see who I'm working with. So if this is HSC3, let me kind of go back to HSC3. So with HSC3, we could actually see, let's say if we had several transition managers, like let's say Alvita was in, let's say if Adriana was in, or several other command career counselors, you would be able to see all of the command career counselors here, and they would be listed under a group where they can all manage all the people there over at HSC3. And again, you can see the members that are assigned to HSC3. So, okay, is who's in there? Hey, Yogi's in there. Chris is in there. Okay, so these are all the people at HSC3 so far who have signed up. So again, you can go in and you can see what their activity, what their status is. So let's say I'm a command career counselor and I'm reporting to the XO. The XO comes in and says, hey, how are we doing with our transition? Well, let's say we only have 10 people in the command and all 10 of them are in the system. So I can actually see who's in the system, and again, who's not doing anything, as well as who is doing anything. And I can see when they're getting out and where they are. And so, you know, again, that gives me my red flags where I could begin talking to folks. For example, like Donovan's getting out on February. And so notice that Donovan hasn't done anything. So if I'm the command career counselor and I have direct access to them, I'm going to make a beeline over and, hey, Donovan, what's up, man? What's going on? You know, we need to, you know, you're headed for the danger zone, okay? Because you haven't really done anything. You know, Natalie's got a little bit of time. She doesn't get out until November of next year. And again, Katie, same thing. Well, gets out soon. But again, the goal here is to get people to start completing their profile. Yes, they've identified where they want to go, but again, they got to do the checkoff. And again, it's designed to be really easy. You just go in and just check off what you've done, but it lets them know, it lets everybody know that they're participating. So now, Adrienne, she's pretty busy though. So she just jumped on it just recently. So she's actually coming up to speed. So you can actually see what stage she's in, what she's completed. Like, you know, she's got one section completely done, and you can see some of the other sections that she needs to really go in there and get some works done. And if, let's say if she's got a spouse, the spouse can have a checklist also. So now we know, and again, here is the information, where she's at, when she's getting out. Again, it's good for them to go in and fill out their complete profile. So there's some missing data points here that we definitely would love to have her updated complete. But again, we got enough information to work off of. We can see what programs she's enrolled in. Is she enrolled in SkillBridge? Is she enrolled in the ETS sponsored? You know, what programs is she enrolled in? Is she connected to a CMVR? Not yet. Can we contact her? What's her current location? Okay. And again, she can subscribe. So we can actually communicate with her. We can send her an email and just kind of let her know, hey, Adrienne, we really need you to go ahead and update your profile just so that you can have all your information. So the more they complete their profile, the better their transition experience is going to be. It's just, again, it's just a matter of data overall. But again, it's a tool to really help that. Now, let's say if I'm the HSC3 command career counselor that's responsible overall for everyone, I now have a data system that I can actually create a report from, and I can go sit down with the boss and let the boss know, here's where we are, what we're doing, and how we're coming along. And I'm noticing quite a few people are going to be getting out so far, and they're going to be staying in California. You kind of got the general idea.
You should see the text messages that I'm sending Yogi. I'm like, we're gonna have to edit. We're gonna have to figure out how to blur all that stuff out.
Yeah, you got to blur it. Just make it audio. Yeah.
That's actually like a really amazing tool, because not only is your command able to look at that, but your sponsor is also able to look at that as well.
Yep.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the information that Maurice just provided about My365 transition timeline. It's some great information for us. I hope that you listen to the next episode. We went ahead and split it up into a third episode talking about ETS. Look for it. It's coming up here soon. Hope you guys enjoy the content. Take care. Do us a solid. Share this content with everyone you know, regardless if they're associated with the military or not. This content will help someone you know, and hopefully will lessen the deadly gap after service. Our goal is to do whatever we can to reduce the number of suicides from 22 to 0 within the community. Give us a 5-star review, follow, like, and subscribe. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, and you can follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram for more content from our guests. These are our personal experiences, and we do not represent the views of the United States Navy and or the Department of Defense. Your transition is ultimately up to you. Please do your research and ask questions. Use Master Chief Google or ask a friend and network within the community that you belong to. Return to Roots out.